And hello and welcome to Halloween Blockbusters. It is October 1st, so our next couple of episodes are going to be spooky content. And first let's introduce ourselves. I'm Joe Hollywood, also known as Joe Johnson. I am your host with the most today, and joining me is Andrew Walker.
Yes, hello, folks.
And George Johnson.
Hey, how's it going? Ladies, run. That was weird.
And we have Nick, aka Maginot Speed, is
On vacation.
somewhere in India trying to convince Prime Minister Modi to stop buying Russian oil, stop feeding that war machine in Ukraine.
I thought he was on the Hollywood Blockbuster International Tour promoting the show.
He's doing many things at once. Yeah.
Now, before we get into today's topic, let me ask you guys. For me personally, October pretty much opens up that window where I like to immerse myself in spooky movies, Halloween movies, not necessarily gory movies or anything like that. But I like to surround myself with that sort of stuff this time of the time of the year. After Halloween,
yeah.
I turn it off. I just can't do that year round. Andrew, is there a window, or do you just take in scary movies all year long?
So I watch as many horror movies on a weekly basis that a lot of people watch within the whole month of October. I love horror movies, and I didn't used to be that way up until probably, I don't know, the last 5 or 6 years. I think COVID did something to my brain where I need that constant fear.
Yeah.
I need
like
that
an
unease.
adrenaline rush, roller
Yes.
coaster ride, that
Yes.
sort of thing. George, are you an aficionado year round?
I year round, I do like it. I do like things that are scary here and again. But the problem is I'm pretty particular about the scary movies I like to watch.
Yeah.
And if they get too gory or too George A. Romero, I guess you could say, to where it's just heads rolling around with eyes bobbling out and stuff, I kind of go, it's just a little too much for me.
Now, that was the original theme of tonight's topic, was we were going to talk
Good
about
point.
horror movies that went too far. But as I started looking at lists online, I'm like, I don't want to go there. I get no pleasure, no enjoyment from movies that just take it too far. And as we started looking at lists, I'm like, I don't want to talk about some of this stuff. I want this podcast to be fun and light. So we called an audible, and we are going to talk about our favorite horror icons this time of the year, which I think is a great topic. I don't think that's something we necessarily touched on before. And I have a movie action figure collection at home. I bought a display case that's full, and there are several horror movie icons that are represented in that collection. So I'm sure we'll talk about.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's an understatement to say that he has a collection. Joe has every single thing you could ever imagine from every
It's
movie.
amazing.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, I collect, in addition to figures, I collect diecast cars and replica movie props, which also has some horror-related paraphernalia that I display in my place. So I do enjoy horror movies, just not necessarily year-round.
I think there's an important distinction to be made here, because in reviewing a lot of the movies before we decided on the topic for tonight, there's a really fun side of being scared.
Right.
A really fun side, like a roller coaster kind of a scare. And then there's like maybe the other end of the spectrum is like Schindler's List or something. I don't know, but or maybe somewhere in there's a Schindler's List, which is a different kind of scary.
Right.
And then there's the scary that, to me, is like, what sick person put this together?
Yeah, exactly.
And I've seen things that have been like mentally scarring, and I just go back and I just say, I wish to God I'd never seen that movie.
Yeah,
I
there's
just
stuff
wish
I
I'd
wish
never
I could
seen.
unseen. Yeah.
And you wonder, like, what woman would sign up to be the one who was raped and beheaded, or whatever.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
that's a bad example because I don't know the actual movie of that, but I really
there are.
and I think to myself, how does that pass as
Entertainment.
entertainment? Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think tonight, I think we all agreed that there's a line that we're not going to cross.
Yeah.
And that we really do want to keep this fun. And
Yeah.
we do like the idea of being chased. I think I like the idea of being chased or trying to figure out the backstory of somebody who's killing all these people or whatever. But I do want to keep it in the realm of spooky, campfire-y type of thing, and
Yeah.
not like torture, begging for your life, and that kind of thing. I don't know why, but for some
Yeah.
people, they enjoy that, and they.
Now, you reminded me something kind of goofy and fun happened a couple of weeks ago. I was here late in the office editing one night, and I picked up on some movement, and I turned and reacted to it, and I thought someone had come in without me knowing. And most of the lights were off in the office. Just my light was on, and I get up to go investigate, and this bat comes flying right at my face. I duck. It circles around. It dives bomb me again. It flies into the darkness. I call my boss. I'm like, what do I do? And he says, prop the door open and hope that it finds its way out. So I prop the door open. I'm sitting in the dark in this chair. I call up my sister to go, you're not going to believe what's happening right now. And out of the darkness, this bat flies so close to me, I thought it was going to nail me in the chest. I flip over backwards out of the chair.
Oh my
I'm crawling on my belly toward the foyer there, toward the open door. My sister is listening to the whole time because I made sounds I've never made before. And I think eventually it made its way out. But the reason I bring that up
It's
is
still
because of what you
haunting
said.
the office today.
No, we haven't heard from it since. But that kind of backs up your point about the thrill of the chase. My heart was beating, my adrenaline was flowing, and I was like high on adrenaline. Like I just had this bat dive bombing me, and it was thrilling. And that's the reason we go to see
That's
horror
exactly
movies.
right.
And it wasn't.
And
gonna
you didn't
do
have to
anything
pay
me.
for anything for that job.
Did you end up putting the Benny Hill music underneath that for a video?
No, I
oh,
found
you should.
TikTok provided like some cool Halloween, like fun Halloween music. So I posted it on TikTok and YouTube and that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
I saw it. Especially something like that where the average person that doesn't happen to maybe once in a lifetime. I mean, if you're working at a zoo in the bat area, yeah, you experience that and you know what to expect.
Yeah.
But anybody else, that's very startling and
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Even though coincidentally, after posting the video and people seeing it on Facebook, I've had several people reach out to me and go, I had a bat in my house and I had to like trap it under a blanket and escort it outside and that sort of stuff. But those are the thrills that we seek, knowing that we can experience terror or the thrill of the chase for 90 minutes or 2 hours, and then you walk out of the theater and the sun is shining and everything is right in the world.
Yeah.
Or if you're like me, I want to go home and put it in another even more scary movie.
Yeah,
I
right.
love. Got to keep the thrill going. 4 hours.
More. So now, again, I'm just going to be talking off the cuff because we we called an audible for this episode. But when you think horror movie icons, obviously the first name for me that comes to mind is not counting. We did a podcast about a year ago about the Universal monsters, and we can talk about them too. But for me, as far as modern day horror movies go, the number one name that comes to mind is Michael Myers from the Halloween movies,
Agreed.
especially the first one. That movie, it didn't necessarily start the teenage, slasher trend, but it was right there at the forefront of it.
Well,
Right.
did it somewhat legitimize it? You had Alfred Hitchcock,
Right.
you had Psycho, and actually I think Psycho might, to me, even though that's a psychological thriller, it's also a horror movie in a sense for its time, I think.
Yeah.
the
especially
opening scene.
Yeah, because of
Yeah.
the blood and.
But
yeah.
I think it went way too far for its time. Maybe not way too far, but pretty far for its time. But I think the first, getting people through the door, teenagers, everybody excited about seeing this movie, that was Halloween. I agree.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
it legitimized an entire genre that was already there, but it wasn't. I don't know.
It mainstreamed it.
Okay, mainstream.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then a couple years before that, I think 74 was Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Yeah.
which at that time I think was still kind of,
Dear God, that was so brutal.
I don't want to say underground, but it didn't mainstream it like Halloween did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And what Halloween did, and for lack of a better term, perfected, which Hitchcock sort of dabbled in, is mixing horror and scares with sexual thrill.
Yep.
Because we wouldn't be talking about that Psycho scene if Janet Leigh wasn't naked in a shower when it happened. And so when filmmakers combine sex and violence, people respond, and that's exactly what Halloween did.
It activates the same part of your brain.
Yeah.
And that's why so many horror movies for the last 50 years, they'll have boobies or whatever, or a couple, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the two number one sins are murder
and boobies.
And boobies. and boobies. And sex.
Is boobies two sins? No.
Or it could be three if you're the alien from Total Recall.
Come on. Let's keep it G.
But
yeah, so Michael Myers, everyone probably knows these facts, but during the filming of Halloween, when they needed a mask, they went to some costume place, bought a William Shatner mask, painted it white, cut the eye holes open a little bit. So really, it's William Shatner kind of chasing these young virgins around in these movies. And then just like, a blue mechanics, coverall or jumpsuit or whatever you want to call it. And it created this iconic look of this ghost white mask and this nondescript, mechanics uniform or whatever. And that created this iconic character. And we've gotten, 7, 8, 9 sequels and prequels and reboots, and Halloween H2O, which brought back Jamie Lee Curtis to reprise that role. And it's actually a pretty good
Is
entry.
it really?
Yeah. H2O is pretty darn entertaining.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
It's two thoughts. Number one is I really love the fact that she can do that and then turn around and do Freaky Friday.
Oh, yeah.
It's so cool because she's just a great actress. Good sport on that. But the other thing is that one of the things I liked about Halloween is that it introduced the mask, and it seems like to be a legitimate franchise ever since Halloween, you have to have your own mask. So there's the Jason mask. There's the what's the one that has the one that's long and really
Scream
mask.
Yeah.
It's like if you've got to have a franchise, you have to have a mask.
Yeah, a nameless, faceless villain. Because Hollywood, I hate to use the word woke, but Hollywood's afraid to put anyone with any sort of ethnic look into the role of a villain. So basically, they have to do this nondescript, generic villain. So the best way to do it is cover up from head to toe all their features. So it's up to your imagination to decide who is behind that mask.
Well, and I think that's the best part of it is that the mask, at least in the first one, maybe the first 2 or 3, the mask never came off.
There is a moment in Halloween where I think she pushes it up or something, and then maybe he pulls it back down. But
is that right?
But yeah,
I never really remember seeing a good shot of it.
Yeah. Now, before the podcast, I said I'm going to do my Forrest Gump thing. So just recently I was in L.A., and I went to the Hollywood show, and I kind of did a lap to see where all the celebrities are. They get about 100 celebrities to sign autographs and stuff like that. And so as I was walking around just seeing where everybody was, there were a few celebrities that were outside of the main banquet rooms. They were sort of in hallways and stuff. So I worked my way over to the side hallway, and sitting way in the back all by himself was a gentleman named Nick Castle, who played Michael Myers in the first Halloween movie. And I'm like, what are you doing back here?
And did you recognize him?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And
didn't he also direct?
Well, that's what's interesting. So sharing that area with him were cast members from The Last Starfighter, which he ended up directing. And so I approached him. It's just him and I. We talk a little bit about Halloween. I had just visited Pasadena to visit locations that are seen in Halloween. Now I'm standing here with the guy who terrorized that neighborhood. And I was like, hey, I was just in your old stomping grounds in Pasadena. And he kind of laughed about that. So he signed a 8x10 of Michael Myers. And then I sat down next to him to get a picture with him. And then we chatted for like 10 minutes about
I bet he
The
loved
Last
talking
Starfighter,
to you because you followed
yeah.
this stuff. You're pretty.
And it was like having an interview with someone, but there was no microphones. There were no cameras.
Did
it was just
you didn't
two
get a
guys.
microphone?
No,
Or,
it's just him and I having a conversation. Which is
there's
special.
a button on your that you could, would you mind?
What
if
don't you think that would have altered the nature of the conversation?
it would have. No, it
Instead of
would
just
have.
a
No,
fan,
this is
if
on.
I said, here, speak into this, I think it might have gone a little different.
No, you're right.
That's why you got to get one of those secret recorder things. things.
No, but I
Speak
think
into my
you
lapel
would have been.
flower.
Yeah, it's just like, so what's today again?
But how cool is it to sit there with the guy who wore the mask and just shoot the shit?
Well,
Just
not only
sit
that,
there
but
and talk.
you're totally legit. You just said, yeah, I just visited this place and this place, and
Yeah.
I understand that you did this and that. You've got all the context. You've got the receipts. I mean,
He'll immediately know that you're a real fan.
Yeah.
that you're
which is
not-
why you got
yeah.
that 10 minutes, probably.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Yep.
And this probably helped too, where he talked about some of the later variations of Halloween, and I'm like, I said, you're the only Michael Myers that matters to me. It's the first one. The first one was so good. The second
He was
one,
the only one in the. Wait, what?
Well-
So how many was he in?
Well, I'm not sure how many times he played Michael Myers, but he wore the mask in the very first Halloween. Now, I don't know if he came back and did the second one.
So
I'll
how
have
old
to
is he
look
now?
that
He's
up.
got to be in his late
Oh,
60s.
he's probably in his 70s.
What's
Is
his
that right?
name again?
Nick
Nick?
Castle. Yeah, so I'm curious how many times he reprised the role. I think I read that he might be coming back for another one, but yeah, so it was cool.
Halloween
to,
is such. It's. I think it's not the granddaddy,
yeah, but it was at the forefront.
the Godfather, maybe.
He's 78.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
So how many times did he play the role?
I'm getting there one second.
When did Halloween come in? 77?
78, I think.
So
I
he's
think it was
78, and the film was made in 78. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So he was in 1, 2,
Okay.
in the 2018 reboot.
Oh wow.
Well, it says he has a cameo and does some of the breathing sounds, but I don't know if he does the actual, like,
Where
the actual physical part of it.
Now you know.
And then the last two, Halloween Kills and Hollywood Ends.
Oh, so he did come back. Okay.
So yeah.
Now, you know what's interesting? When he signed my 8x10, he wrote his name, but he did not write Michael Myers underneath it. Do you know what he is credited as playing in those movies?
No.
I think in the credits, if you look at the credits, he's listed as the Shape.
Yeah, that's what it says on here. It
Yeah.
says The Shape.
So he doesn't say that he's Michael Myers in the film. He says that he is the Shape.
But don't they
in the
mention his? They do mention
He
Michael
is Michael Myers. That is the character. So I find that intriguing that he
Yeah.
signs as the Shape and he's credited as the Shape, but you think he would be Michael Myers. So for me, that's the number one most iconic Halloween horror character is Michael Myers from the Halloween movies. They didn't change his look too much over time, unlike Jason. Now, you brought up the Jason hockey mask, and I'm sort of a purist when it comes to Friday the 13th, and I'm going to sort of quiz you guys about this. So Friday the 13th, the first one that came out was like 1980, I think, and it was terrifying. It like took that whole thing to the next level, and they were just coming up with creative ways to kill, young people.
Mm-hmm.
And so my question to you is, who was the killer in the first Friday the 13th?
I know who it
I
is,
know.
but I've only I watched it for the first time last year, and I was able to not have it ruined for me. The surprise.
See, that's cool.
Same thing with Psycho. I told you guys about
So
that.
we're saying it. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
George, who
mother.
was the mother? Was.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
And
everybody's like,
so
"Oh, Jason's gonna get you."
Jason is
Nothing to do
the
with Jason.
face of Friday the 13th, and people seem to forget that he was not the killer in the first one.
I think somebody needs to reboot the whole thing and go from the mother's angle. They probably did that already, but
Yeah, right. Now, the second Friday the 13th, which I enjoyed as much as the first one, Jason made his first appearance as the killer, but the hockey mask had not debuted yet. And the second
even in
Friday
the second one,
13th,
it didn't
he
even-
wore a pillowcase over his head with eye holes
That's right.
cut in it.
Yep.
And I had read not too long ago that look was inspired by a movie that absolutely terrified me because I saw it way too young. Was a movie called The Town That Dreaded Sundown. And it had
That's a
very
great
similar
movie.
look. It had a guy with a pillowcase over his head with eye holes cut in it. That's the same look they used in Friday the 13th Part 2. And something I didn't realize until recently, one of the victims in The Town That Dreaded Sundown was a actress that we all know and love, and I had totally forgotten that she was a slasher victim in The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Do you know who I'm referring to?
No.
the lovely Dawn Wells from Gilligan's Island
Oh.
was one of the victims in the town that
pre-Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, no. This was after Gilligan's Island. 'Cause-
Yeah,
When
that
did
would
the town that?
be in
Oh
the
no, that would have been like
70s.
19.
So
okay,
Gilligan's
yeah.
Island was like
60s.
65,
Yeah, you're right.
66. The town that dreaded sundown was 70s, I think, early 70s.
I keep coming across that one too, so
Yeah.
I'll need to watch it.
But it messed me up because it has almost a documentary feel to it, and I should not have seen it.
I saw it way too young.
I think I was
saw it on
8
TV.
or something when I saw it.
I
Yeah,
think I just saw it on TV.
and it's pretty ultra violent.
It
and,
is pretty bad.
Yeah, it gave me nightmares. But so my point is that the hockey mask did not debut on screen for Friday the 13th until the third one, which was Friday the 13th 3D, and that's when they introduced the hockey mask. Now everyone associates Jason with the hockey mask, but that was not the
That
case
was
for the first two movies.
So what was the first? What was it? Well, I can't remember now what he wore.
You
in the
never
first.
saw the killer. You never
Oh,
saw the killer
except
until
when-
the big reveal at the end.
when who jumped out of the water?
Oh,
then?
so that may or may not have been a dream sequence, but there's that terrifying scene at the end of the movie where the girl's in the boat
yes.
and this figure leaps out of the water, which was implied was Jason. Who had drowned in that lake or whatever. But
right.
but then she
it made no
wake
sense.
up from that. Like they implied that it was a dream, but then they decided to make him the main antagonist the rest of the series. But so it's kind of interesting that, you ask anyone today, you go, who's the killer in Friday the 13th? They go, oh, Jason. And he wore a hockey mask. No, he did not.
Yeah, that's right.
Not the first two movies. So even though Jason eventually became a Halloween icon, he was not the hockey mask wearing lunatic that we know and love now. But
It's interesting because I think for a lot of people, once they started introducing certain, like the red and green striped shirt,
yeah,
we'll get to that, I'm sure, in a moment.
claws,
The
yeah.
claws. There's certain specific parts of their costume and specific things they say and they do.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. But after about one or two movies, it's like, okay, here comes the mask. Okay, here comes the sweatshirt. All right.
Sure. There's only so many times you can do it
Yeah.
And it's
before you
no
get
longer-
the law of diminishing returns.
Exactly. And I think that for me, I like if somebody says I really saw a great murder movie, I actually at this point really hope it ends.
Yeah.
Like the person dies,
Yeah.
the whatever. The most recently Weapons was really cool.
I was just going to bring that up.
With I think that's going to go on because of the tree.
They're going to do a prequel with the ant.
Oh, she was phenomenal in that. She was
Don't-
so good. Anyway, let's not
Do you
go
think
there.
you'll see it someday, Jim?
No, because was it Robert who said that there were things in that movie that he wishes he could unsee? And as soon as he said that, I'm like, I'm out. I don't want that in my
I don't blame
brain.
you. Yeah, there is some pretty.
I
yeah.
think
There's one scene in particular. There's one scene that's comical, that's pretty gross, but there's one scene that actor that did what he did. I'll never associate him as a serious actor again.
Yeah.
I did not like that at all.
Well,
I'll tell you about it later. I
Yeah,
don't want to ruin
yeah.
it because
Let's
it's
get
still
back
out
to
there. It's
our-
still
our
out there.
theme
Anyway,
here,
yeah.
but-
sure.
So if there was a Mount Rushmore of horror icons,
Oh, here we go.
We have Jason, we have Michael Myers, we have to put Freddy on the Mount
So
Rushmore.
we're talking pre-70s because there's a Mount Rushmore that exists from the 30s, which has got Dracula.
Yeah. We're not talking. We can talk about Universal Monsters in a second.
Universal
And
Monsters.
I agree.
Okay,
with
you
There
did
could-
say that.
There
My
could
bad.
be a Universal Monsters Mount Rushmore. So let's talk. Slasher horror flick. Like you said, let's call it the modern era. So we would have Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers. We'll add a fourth one in a little bit. But I read recently that according to a poll that Freddy Krueger in Nightmare on Elm Street was ranked one of, if not the most scariest movie villain of all time.
Really?
And what was intriguing about Nightmare on Elm Street was that we had never seen anything like that. Like seeing young virgins getting slaughtered. We've seen that in Texas Chainsaw and all that stuff. But what they did in Nightmare on Elm Street was this I don't know, paranormal sort of creature entering people's dreams and killing them within their dreams because, they used to say, oh, if you die in your dreams, you die in real life.
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
they took that simple line and turned that into a film franchise. And so it was very unique and novel when it came out. And, Freddie had sort of a sense of humor where he would sort of wisecrack.
I loved that he had a real,
Yeah.
and I actually was like rooting for him. Like that dumb broad, she should have taken. She should have left an hour ago. But the other part of that I really love is the insomnia part of it. Like I don't want to go to sleep and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
That because in high school we stayed up way too late,
Yeah.
and so it'd be 4 a.m. and we'd be like, hey, let's watch Freddy again.
Yeah.
And we would watch it. And it was like you're like falling. You're like so tired, but you couldn't keep it. And you started to feel like you were part of that dream.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Ironically, I introduced that movie to my nephew when I felt he was old enough to watch it. So we sat there to watch it around Halloween. And ironically, he dozed off in the middle of the movie. And I'm like, how do you fall asleep during Nightmare on Elm Street? That's crazy. I would
The
never
younger
be able to do
they
that.
just don't get it.
So that would be the third addition to my Mount Rushmore would be Freddy. And, he's got the fedora, like you said, the sweater, the gloves. They created this really iconic look that's instantly recognizable. And, if you see red and green stripes next to each other, you think Freddy Krueger. I mean, that's how iconic he became. Now, the
Great
second one.
origin story too.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
that
Halloween
the parents
and-
got together and got their revenge on this child killer. Basically, that was the origin story for Freddy.
I
that-
thought it was that a nun had been trapped inside of a prison and she was raped 1,000 times or something, and the bastard child that she had was Freddy.
I don't.
Am
is
I up
that
in-
part of it? Because what I remember is that he had murdered numerous children, and so the parents got together and killed him and threw him in a furnace or something like that, and then that's him getting revenge on the parents who had.
I'm
put
gonna have to
him
go
in the
back
prison.
to the drawing board.
But
yeah.
but what you said sounds
Gotcha.
familiar, so I'm wondering what role that played in the movie. But yeah, an iconic character, instantly recognizable. Now, the second one I think is pretty widely panned, and there's really odd reasons why people hate it. They said it has like a homosexual underlying a thing. You have to look it up. I forget what the story is, but it's fairly widely panned. But then I think the third one might be Dream Warriors, I think.
I've only
You
seen.
might have to help me out
Yeah,
on
I
that.
can look it up. I've only seen the first one. So
What was the Halloween thing? The Halloween one was awesome, of course. But
Yeah.
was it Halloween 2 that just went complete, or was it Halloween
No,
3
so
that went
Jamie Lee
completely-
Curtis came back for Halloween 2. That's mostly set like in a mental hospital or something, or she's in a hospital. The third one did Season of the Witch, which I don't even
It was-
think featured Michael
didn't have
Myers. It
anything
went
to
in
do
a
with it.
different direction, yeah. Then they got back to that. So we got Nightmare on Elm Street. The second one, Freddy's Revenge, is the one that's kind of widely panned. 3, which got back to the basics. That's Frank Darabont. So that's Dream Warriors, and then it goes on and on and on and on. But by the time 3 rolled around, that's when Freddy became, the wisecracking guy and doing little jokes and stuff like that. And I remember seeing those in the theater. The crowd would be laughing out loud and basically like cheering on Freddy. They were all on Freddy's side. Who cared about these young virgins that were getting slaughtered? He like won over the crowd and became this horror icon.
I haven't seen it in years, but I remember the first one, Freddy Krueger, was there, did they take away the fourth wall? Like, was she talking to the camera or at
I
least
don't
narrating over
recall
the top?
that. It's possible that the actress Heather Langenkamp, she may have.
I need to go back.
It
and
may
I
have
can't-
been told from her perspective. I'll have to revisit that. And then, of course, that was the debut of Johnny Depp. He had a role in the very first
Oh,
Nightmare on
that's
Elm
right.
Street.
Yeah.
Ironically, when I was in L.A., my friends wanted to go see the Nightmare on Elm Street home. Apparently, the family or guy or whoever lives there now does not like visitors, and he planted so much greenery in front of his house that you can't even photograph it now and say, oh, I was at the Nightmare house. He just wants nothing to do with the visitors who swing by to take pictures. And I'm like, if you're going to own a house that was featured in a film, you're going to have to accept that people are going to come by. but he wants nothing to do with that. All right, so we got Freddy, Jason, and Michael Myers. Who is the fourth slasher that would be on your Mount Rushmore? Now, for me, and I'm willing to concede if you have a better suggestion, but when slasher flicks were sort of going out of fashion and weren't box office phenoms anymore, this movie came along and turned everything on its head. You mentioned it a moment ago. Scream was just an absolute phenomenon, and people ate it up, where here you have these characters during the film talking about the rules of horror films.
Yes.
Don't say I'll be right back and all this stuff, and all of that played into the film. It had some really great twists and turns to it. Neve Campbell became a scream queen along with Jamie Lee Curtis and Heather Langenkamp and all
and
them.
it didn't hurt that she was smoking hot. And
Oh,
also,
she was
Courtney
so beautiful.
Cox was smoking hot. And who else was in that? I mean, there was
Yeah. But I wish I would have brought up the sound bites, but I interviewed Neve Campbell a few years ago. I interviewed Heather Langenkamp.
I'm so jealous.
I wish
would
I
have
could
loved
play
to-
those right now. I don't think I have those.
But what
lined
was it
up
like
right
to
now,
chat
but
with Neve Campbell?
I was a fan, but you have to suppress it and not lose your mind. But in addition to interviewing her, I made sure I got a photo with her.
So at any
And-
time did you say, "Gosh, it's great to see you"?
Well, you know what I had to keep myself from doing at the end of the interview. I didn't want my last question to be, "What's your favorite scary movie?"
No,
I'm sure she's heard that a million times, so I kept myself from doing that. But like you, I had a really big crush on her, and she was great in those movies, and it was so cool to meet her in person. So yeah, I would
Show Joe.
I would argue
Joe, just
that
watch his face. See, I told you.
man, makes my heart hurt.
Another thing.
She's purty. So yeah, I would argue that the Scream killer, I guess he goes by the name Ghostface in these movies. That might be the fourth icon, even though they did have a cool little switch there. And you know what's weird? I don't necessarily plan on these things, but one day I sit down and I'm like, wow, that's kind of weird. And again, I'm dropping names here. So way back in 1990, I ran into Drew Barrymore at Venice Beach. Now, Scream would come out years later.
Did you say ran into?
Literally, I mean, yeah, just she was getting out of a limousine. I think she was celebrating her birthday with some friends. And I'm like, "You're Drew Barrymore," and got a picture with her. And she was really kind and sweet. But over the next couple of decades, I met Henry Winkler, who was in Scream. I met Neve Campbell. I met Jamie Kennedy, who's the one who, was the movie buff who would spell out all the rules. And next thing you know, I'm like, geez, I've met like 5 or 6 cast members. And the Motor City Comic Con, which is coming up in November, is going to have Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard, in addition to, and I'm kind of excited about this, Rose McGowan. All 3 of them are going to be at the Motor City Comic Con this year. So I'm hoping to add to my total of meeting
Now,
Scream
what are these
cast
3
members.
actors again? Remind me again,
So,
our listeners.
Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich.
They're the young men that are in it as well, that are kind of screwing around and
Yeah,
punching each other and
exactly.
funny kind
And
of
I
thing.
don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it, but they're in the movie. And then
But
Rose
Rose
McGowan,
McGowan?
her demise was the garage door. You remember the garage door?
Yes.
And she had a top on that was so revealing that you think that can't be real. Those, because you remember, guys know what I'm talking about.
I don't.
She had like a lime green top on that was so revealing.
No,
It's
you-
like-
yeah. We both reached for our
So
phones.
yeah,
like,
look up
this
Rose
is-
McGowan
this-
and Scream.
This is all, of course, just academic. But
Yeah. So, all right. So that's my vote for the 4th seat on Mount Rushmore is Ghostface. Do you guys have? Do you think Leatherface belongs on Mount Rushmore because that's the movie that started it all? But I never really got into Texas Chainsaw because it's just too gross and morbid for me.
Yeah, I didn't get into that either.
Who's your candidate for the 4th spot on Mount Rushmore?
That's hard to say.
That is hard to say. In the 90s, we had the remnants of all the 80s, but
Yeah.
and then by the time it got to 2000, you started getting some really great Asian movies. You started getting some really
Yeah.
just some really out there stuff. You got Paranormal. You had
those are great.
those
The
are-
Paranormal
yeah.
Activity movies.
oh gosh, the first one really
yeah.
that messed with my operating system. I thought
And
that
it was so
because it was
simple.
documentary.
Yeah. It wasn't
had,
like
um,
effects heavy. It was very a simple
We had
story.
the Blair Witch, and that was in
Yeah.
the 90s, though. I mean, so it kind of switched away from it. I don't know that any of them would make the quote unquote.
Yeah.
But I think.
Let me throw a name out at you. Now, I wouldn't put him on my Mount Rushmore, but I just had a conversation with somebody recently who said one of the scariest movies that they saw of all time, and I'm trying to think of the name of the movie now because I've never seen it, but that's what I was talking about there.
Should we pause?
We're going to take a 5-minute break. No, so I was just talking to someone who said one of the scariest movies they've ever seen and one of the scariest characters they've ever seen was Pinhead. Pinhead is
Really?
in, what's the name of the movie?
Hellraiser.
Hellraiser, yeah.
I haven't seen it. Have you guys seen Hellraiser? And does Pinhead,
I don't think he was that.
is he
scary.
iconic?
Yeah.
I had it on actually like 2 months ago, but it was one of those nights where I wasn't really paying attention. I was catching up on text messages and stuff while I was trying to watch it. From what I remember, I liked it, but I wouldn't put him in the same category as what the other guys. I was going to say Chucky.
Chucky, yeah.
I think he's a little more well known in pop culture than Pinhead.
One character that comes to mind that when this movie came out, it was under the radar. It sort of came and went from theaters without many people taking notice. It had gotten great reviews from critics, and so I sought it out. And I finally picked it up on DVD, sight unseen, popped it in and watched it, absolutely loved it. It was a movie called Trick or Treat, and they introduced a new...
I watched that last year because you told me to watch it. That's a really great movie.
And they desperately wanted to introduce Sam, I think is his name, the guy who has like a burlap sack over his head. He's probably about 3 feet tall with orange footy pajamas. And I thought he was a great character who enforced the rules of Halloween. And I really wanted to see him get elevated to icon status. But because the movie was so under the radar, not a lot of people saw it, not a lot of people are familiar with it, that he never quite achieved that iconic status. But if they had followed that up with maybe a sequel or something, that might have put him more in the public eye. They should have capitalized on the fact that the movie really gained an underground following, a cult following, and they never fully capitalized on it. So there was only that one entry, and Sam would have been a great horror movie icon, but he just didn't have the exposure the other ones did.
I agree. And I also watched it for the first time last year, and
go on.
yeah, I really liked it. I remember it's got Brian Cox in it, and Anna Paquin. It was $12 million, but only made $28,000.
Oh no!
Wait, how is that? Wait, what is this?
It's the Trick or Treat movie.
Trick or Treat movie.
It came and went from theaters so quickly, and mostly it was shown in like art house theaters.
Wait, how could it only have made $28,000? I mean,
it's just nobody saw it.
Yeah,
nobody saw it in the theaters.
What was overshadowing it? That it wouldn't? Did they just give it a limited run to like 5 theaters?
I don't know.
It was a very minimal run, and the studios were probably just trying to cut their distribution losses, so they put it out in a few theaters. Now, like I said, it gained an underground following when it was released on DVD, and I own the DVD. So it probably recouped some of its budget on DVD and rentals and things like that. I love it. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, since Joe owns the DVD, they made $28,063.
I paid more than that. It was probably about $20.
Yeah, but they probably only got 63 cents, right?
They got their cut.
They got their cut.
Yeah. But, I really wanted Sam to rise to horror icon, but that never quite happened. Chucky's a good throw out to be considered. Who else? Who else should be elevated to the status of horror icons.
So there's Jigsaw. That's 2004.
I never got into those movies.
Yeah, me neither.
There's obviously the Chucky that you were talking about, and then there's Leatherface, but that goes to kind of the earlier 70s.
Yeah, yeah.
But if we really did go back to it and say, where do we draw the line in the sand? Is it post 60s? If it's post 60s, then Leatherface is definitely maybe the first one who's nameless, shapeless, or nameless.
And he was inspired by real life incidents. We've talked about Ed Gein,
which there's now a Netflix show about that.
Yeah. So he inspired Norman Bates. He inspired Leatherface. He inspired a lot of slasher guys. I'm trying to think now. For me personally, some of my favorites that might not necessarily be real mainstream, but I think one of the best vampires ever put to film was Jerry Dandridge in Fright Night. That was a blast.
That was great.
Here's this, suave, handsome vampire moving in next door to this teenager, and right out of the gate, you see him like loading the coffin into the house, and Charlie is witnessing this whole thing, and it just hits the ground running. And I've said this on this podcast before, and I'm sure I'll talk about it again before Halloween rolls around, that it's one of my all-time favorite horror movies and movies to watch for Halloween. And I would lobby for Jerry Dandridge, but I know that Fright Night doesn't necessarily have that mainstream appeal that a lot of those other films
camp to it.
Yeah.
There's some hokiness to it, but I don't know what it is about it, but it feels more like a 1950s film.
Yeah.
That was brought to the 1980s. Like you could go to the theater, like you could go to a drive-in and sit next to your girl with updated 80s gore and some other things that made it.
Yeah.
But it's still at its heart was just a really, I don't know how, if you're going to call anything sweet, it's kind of a sweet movie in a sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, hey, I need some help with this. And
they chase down Peter Vincent, which is a throwback to Sir Graves Ghastly, the horror movie host, they go seek him out for this help.
And
he's a skeptic, but then he's a believer. And
no, it's great.
It's a lot of fun. And again, tooting my own horn over the years, the first cast member I met from Fright Night was Chris Sarandon, who played Jerry Dandridge. He was at the Motor City Comic-Con, and I handed him a little die-cast car. It was a kind of a beat-up red Mustang, and I handed it to him. It was in its packaging, and he didn't recognize it. He goes, "What's this?" And I said, "That's Charlie's car from the movie. He had a beat-up red Bondoed Mustang that Jerry ends up destroying." And he calls Charlie and says, "I just destroyed your car, but that's nothing compared to what I'm going to do to you."
Who made that?
So Johnny Lightning, a company called Johnny Lightning, released that car kind of discreetly in its line. They didn't call it the Fright Night car, but all the Bondo and everything is in the right place.
Screamed foot. Yeah.
So when he saw that, he got a big smile on his face, and he signed it. And that same car has since been in the hands of William Ragsdale, who played Charlie, Amanda Bierce, who played Amy, and
complete with Bondo, or all fixed up, or what?
No, that diecast car is signed by all of those cast members on the packaging.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, and the last one that I met was Evil Ed.
That's got to be worth. That's got to be worth it.
I have it framed and hanging on my wall with the Fright Night VHS tapes side by side. Stephen Jeffries played Evil Ed, so it's kind of cool to know that little car from Fright Night has been in the hands of 4 of the main cast members.
That is so cool.
So I love the movie. I watch it just about every year at this time, and it's one of my favorite movies to watch. But as far as iconic status, I don't know, but. I would cast my vote that way. Another movie that I love watching this time of the year, and again, it was a box office failure, but it gained an underground cult status, and now it's considered a masterpiece, and that is The Thing, which you were referred to a little while ago.
Not it.
Not it.
Not it. Yeah, exactly. Not it. Exactly.
The interesting thing about The Thing, I mean, obviously Kurt Russell is the face of that, so you can't really put him on the Mount Rushmore because he's not the villain in the film. the alien, the creature in the film, is kind of a shapeshifter thing, so it doesn't really have an iconic look or form. It takes on the shape of humans and dogs and stuff like that.
Which
so
adds to the paranoia, and it's perfect. If you had one
Exactly.
person, it was, oh, where's he going to come from? But in that situation, it could be any of us.
yeah,
And I love that about that. They do the blood test and all that kind of thing.
yeah.
I'm ruining it if you haven't seen it, but really a supreme
Yeah.
primo.
Now, I don't understand. At the time it came out, critics called it horror porn. They were turned off by the goriness of it. And only now do people really embrace it. But I see
And
it
this
in
is
the theaters.
before CGI, and it's
Yeah,
really
it was all practical
well
effects
done.
in the room.
It's practical, awesome stuff.
Yeah,
Yep.
and so I don't understand the backlash at the time, and critics hated it, but it didn't make a lot of money at the box office. It's another one of those movies that gained a following on HBO and VHS and all that stuff, and now it's considered a masterpiece and a classic. And what's kind of ironic is not too long after The Thing came out, we got The Fly with Jeff Goldblum.
Which is amazing
And
as well.
critics praised it, and they said, "Oh, this is a masterpiece." I'm like, "Well, how is this any different than The Thing?"
Wow.
It's like The Thing kind of prepped audiences to embrace that
That's
sort
a
of thing.
very, very good point. It
Yeah.
prepped audiences.
And so
'cause
by the time
Fly
The
was
Fly
amazing too.
Oh, it was incredible.
Every time I see a movie with Jeff Goldblum,
Yeah.
I always think of him going, "I'm not getting worse. I'm getting better." I can't unsee that.
One of my
He's so
favorite
funny.
little tidbits about The Fly, and you may have heard this, but there's a famous scene in the original Fly where they find the little teeny guy with the fly's body caught in a spider web, and you hear, "Help me, help me." Well, they paid tribute to that film in the Jeff Goldblum version, but because of the instances that happened before that line was delivered, the crowd was screaming so loudly that they screamed over the top of Jeff Goldblum going, "Help me, please help me." And that is when Gina Davis leans in to hug him or whatever, and his ear comes off or
Yes.
something. So the crowd is just reacting to that as Jeff Goldblum delivers the line. And so later when I read, they paid tribute to the original Fly with that line, I'm like, I don't remember hearing that line. And that's because the crowd was reacting to his ear coming off. So, but yeah, that again, practical effects all done right there in front of the camera. And you could only imagine the actors on set witnessing these things going, you got to be kidding me. So yeah. So I love those movies. I mean, it's a tough watch. I mean, I just recently watched The Fly again, and as much as I enjoyed it, I'm in no hurry to watch it again. I'll revisit it in a few years.
Pretty
But
gross. And
Yeah.
there's some weird ideas about she's having sex with a guy who's turning into a fly, and she's like, "Wow, you're such a stud, and this is so great." It's been years since I've seen it, and it was cool when I saw it, but I for whatever reason it's the self-destruction
yeah,
of a man, and it just gets gorier and yuckier. And
That's David Cronenberg.
yeah,
All of his movies are body horror.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
director, yeah.
and it's after a while, it's too, for me, it's hard to watch.
yeah. And when you think about, again, I'm sure people have seen The Fly, so I'm hoping I'm not spoiling anything, but the climactic, peak at the end there, when he thinks the solution to the cure is to pull her into the machine and her baby, and this fly thing to make one human or whatever. I'm like, that is so deranged. And that's what she's fighting, is to avoid becoming fused with Jeff Goldblum's fly creature. And then the hero tries to come to the rescue, and look what happened to him. Oh, that was so disturbing. My God. But yeah, those are considered classics because of the practical effects.
We missed one, and that is,
Yes,
and it's three of them, and there's three of them. There's Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which I think are really cool, but it's kind of a trick question because it's a horror movie, and I think there's three of them that I know of. There's the old 50s ones,
Right.
there's the 70s one, with
Donald Sutherland.
Donald Sutherland
And Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, that's right. He's in that one. Yeah.
He's in that one too.
Yeah, I totally.
And
Along
so
with,
is Spock.
Yeah, exactly.
Leonard
Leonard
Nimoy,
Nimoy.
yeah.
That's
I love
the
that movie.
first
Yeah.
one
It is
I saw,
so good.
and
Yeah.
I love that one. And
And
then
it
there's
does have a lot in common with The Thing. It's that paranoia. Are you one of
Are you-
them? Are you
exactly.
one of us? It's
and then the
it
body's
taps
just
into that.
disappearing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Yeah.
What happened? And the garbage cans move
Yeah.
out. It's like, oh.
And one of the, and again, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but one of the greatest endings in movie history.
Yeah.
To end on
is
that
a
note.
great
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that when I saw that, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, he made it, and then that. Oh,
You know,
I
we're
love that.
we're so used to Hollywood, having these Hollywood endings where when the odds seem against everybody, you go, oh, they're going to find a way out of this. And that movie's like, guess what? There's no Hollywood ending in this movie. And it was shocking.
It was shocking.
Shocking. Like,
Loved it.
wait, the credits are rolling. What are you doing? There's more.
I was going to mention one more recent, possibly, I don't want to call him a legend yet, but the Terrifier movies with the clown.
Yes.
Because
So,
I know they're super graphic. I've seen the first two. I haven't seen the third one. I liked them with the exception of a couple scenes that for even me, it was
too much.
too much. But I get the appeal.
Really?
That I get how he can become like a new legend of
Yeah.
slasher.
Well, you see his face everywhere now. And
Yeah.
ironically, I had no idea the Terrifier franchise even existed until I went to a little con in Monroe, the Monroe Comic Con. And one of the actors who was appearing there was Clint Howard, who is famously the brother of Ron Howard and has appeared in countless films and TV shows. And he was there. And so I went to go meet him and get a picture with him and stuff. And he was wearing a T-shirt that said Terrifier 3. And I'm like, I must have missed the first two. I had no idea what that was. Since me discovering Terrifier 3, which I haven't seen any of the movies yet, by the way, that's only when I became aware of the franchise. But I've deliberately avoided them because of what people have said to me.
Yeah.
Like, there's some really, some moments that you can't unsee.
It's one of those things that, at least in the very first movie, you know what it's building up to, and I did like turn my head away because I knew what was going to happen. I could just tell from the setup. And if it's something like that where I know something's coming and I can look away, that's fine. you
Yeah.
know. But it was, and it was made for a couple $1,000s.
Yeah.
I think $30,000 something.
What?
Like that, the first one. Second one, I think was $200,000. The
What?
third one, it got
A bigger budget.
They got like $2 million
Yeah.
budget, but
What's crazy is that,
Yeah.
like I said, I had no idea this thing even existed 2 years ago, and now it's everywhere. You see that guy's face on shirts and all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, man, this came out of nowhere. But he is,
And every horror movie kind of does start that way.
yeah.
What is it? Bruce Campbell. What's that one?
Evil
Evil
Dead.
Dead.
That
movies,
is
yeah.
great.
Ash.
I finally saw that for the first time like 3 months ago, and I just laughed. It was so well done, so funny.
did you watch the second one also?
Well, I saw
That's
the,
Army of Darkness was the
That-
second
that's the
one or
third one.
Oh, that's the third
So
one.
the
Okay.
first two,
Well, what's the one at the cabin?
That's
the first two. Are
I saw
okay.
that one, and that was okay. I thought it was okay. It was interesting, and for the amount of money that they
Yeah.
spent on it was
Couple
amazing.
of local guys.
I didn't see the second one, but I did skip to the one where he goes back in time.
I haven't
I
seen that one.
laughed. I thought that was amazing. I thought that was so funny.
It was so slapsticky. Like
I
I was
I,
like,
I
okay.
liked it. I thought it was great. But so to maybe also push this in another direction, this time of year I also like to see Young Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Oh,
Love that. It doesn't qualify as a horror movie, but it is the kind of the time of the year, and it's
Yeah,
just fun.
that's the kind of movie, if you get together with friends and you go, oh, let's watch a Halloween movie, and if there's some people in the group who are like, I don't really like gory slasher flicks, Young Frankenstein's usually a safe one to pop in where, it has the right tone, but it's funny and laugh out loud. I remember
part I
I
just-
saw that in the theater when it came out, believe it or not.
Oh, I can't tell you how many times I love the part where he picks up Terry Garr off of the the carriage,
Yeah.
and he's pulling her over, and her chest is right in his face, and he looks over and he goes, "My, what knockers!" And she goes, "Oh, doctor, thank you." And then they show these big knockers
on the doors. Yeah.
And there's Frau Blucher.
Yeah.
It's the perfect one, and there's not a thing about it that's scary.
Yeah.
But
and a movie becomes a classic when the lines of dialogue just kind of pop into your head in various situations. Like, I can't tell you how many times. Like, I was just on I was shooting video on a hayride here in Orion Township, and I hear roll, roll, roll in the hay, and I'm just those things just pop into my head, or putting on the Ritz. If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits? Peter Boyle was great.
Great.
Gene Wilder should have won an Oscar for that role.
Wasn't Gene Hackman in there too?
Yeah, he was the blind man.
Blind man.
Yeah, great cast, iconic. From what I heard, they used a lot of the same props and set pieces that were used in the original Frankenstein movies.
Yes, like
the lightning bolt things.
Exactly.
They recycled a lot of that stuff.
So great.
It was authentic.
The look was so great.
And I'm glad they shot it in black and white. I don't
I
think it
am too.
had the same effect if it was a color 70s film. And I'm sure Mel Brooks had to argue for that.
Here's another
that's an
one I want to
iconic
throw
one.
you at, but you might think of this as dystopian. Stepford Wives.
Never saw that. No.
You never saw the Stepford Wives?
No.
Neither of you saw that?
Mm-mm.
There's two versions. There's one with Goldie Hawn and I think Bette Midler, and that was really funny. That was really good. But you should see Stepford Wives because it is a murder mystery kind of a movie. I think you'd really like it, but it's also kind of a dystopian thing.
Yeah.
I'm recommending that for both of you. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Isn't the remake like more serious with the Australian chick? What's her name?
Oh, Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman.
Yeah. Oh, she's in it too. That's right. Yeah.
I thought those were.
It is more serious. It's a lot more serious in a lot of ways, but it's still a dark comedy. They're both. No, the second one's more dark comedy. The first one's more, kind of. I don't know, not post-apocalyptic, but it is kind of. It is. I can't explain it. I don't know what the term is for it, but it is sad and it is scary, and you should see it.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, let's segue to the Universal monsters. I know we touched on them
Good.
a year or so. We were talking about monster movies, and so the question is, okay, if you had a Mount Rushmore of Universal monsters, there's three that immediately come to mind: Dracula, Frankenstein, and Wolfman. Yep. Who should fill that fourth face on Mount Rushmore? Now, personally, one of my all-time favorite Universal monsters is Creature from the Black Lagoon. I sympathize with the creature. He's sort of a victim of circumstance. Here they're on his turf, and he's the bad guy. He's like, what did I do? I really love the Creature from the Black Lagoon.
I love that. You're like,
yeah.
I sympathize. What did I do?
Yeah.
That's funny.
It'd be like someone coming into your house and making you the villain. You're like, you're in my house.
Yeah, what do you?
Yeah. So who would you argue should fill that fourth spot on the Mount Rushmore of Universal monsters?
Could be the
The
Mummy.
Mummy is widely regarded as one of the best Universal monster movies, and I watched it about a year or so ago where
It's pretty cool.
I sat down and watched from beginning to end, and it's pretty darn entertaining.
It's pretty cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
it. I haven't seen that in years, but I saw it as a kid, and it's just an enjoyable movie. It's not too terrible, but they're scared. But Creature from the Black Lagoon's great.
Now, one that I watched again for the first time last year was The Invisible Man with Claude Rains, and that was outstanding. Claude Rains.
This is the black and white one from 1930 odd.
30s,
40-odd?
yeah. And Claude Rains, who was in Casablanca
Sure.
and Robin Hood, he's just a great character actor. He played the Invisible Man, and the funny thing is a lot of people turned down that role because they're like, "What do you mean you're not going to see my face?" And Claude Rains was like, "I don't care, I'll do it." And he was incredible in it. And you barely saw him as Claude Rains. Basically, you saw the bandages, and when they would come off, there'd be nothing under the bandages. And he slowly, lost his mind because of this serum throughout the film. But the Invisible Man is outstanding. It's really, as far as being an entertaining
I'm going to
film.
have to revisit that. I'm glad you said that. I'm going to put that down.
Now, what's interesting is going back and watching, Bela Lugosi's Dracula and Boris Karloff's Frankenstein. Even though I concur that these movies are classics, they move at a snail's pace. They're pretty slow and dry.
Dracula especially. It takes
I don't think Dracula has any music in it, so there's like long stretches of silence,
Okay, I posit that movie, because of the long silence, it makes you feel more alone. It demands... when you have a soundtrack that's like dum-dum, dum-dum, it's like, okay, after a while...
It tries to manipulate you.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. This one is... You're out in the middle of nowhere. There's no one. There's no modern society. It's boring. And part of the reason it was terrifying to me when I saw it, I was about 18, 19 years old and I got chills.
Yeah.
Was the fact that it didn't have cheesy music. And it was just like, oh my gosh, it's the strength of the characters.
Oh, yeah.
It's the strength of the castle.
And that, Bela Lugosi being a foreign character with that accent was, I think, something new to moviegoers because, you're coming almost right out of the silent era and you're trying to find actors who can speak on stage. And he had played the character on stage. And so to bring that to the film with his European accent, people really embraced it, almost, like they did with Rudolph Valentino all those years before that. And so he became so iconic in that role. And it's kind of interesting to think that the only time he played Dracula on film, and correct me if I'm wrong, was in Dracula and in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. He returned to wear that costume and play Dracula in that movie, and that's one of my all-time favorite movies.
Isn't that great?
But
that's another one I always like to watch. That Abbott Costello.
That's a fun one.
It's a fun one. It is,
and it has like genuine scary moments. And we've talked about this on the podcast before. That some of my favorite horror movies are the ones that mix horror and comedy. And
I agree, because if you have it too much, all of a sudden it takes itself too seriously, and I can't engage with it. I need to be able to disconnect from the horror and then get back. That's what Freddy Krueger kind of did to me. Some of that.
And Scream and Shaun of the Dead. And there's a great movie called, what is it? Tucker and Dale Must Die. They take that slasher trope and turn it on its head by infusing humor in it. And that's, Abbott and Costello were pretty much the first ones to do that. I guess Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis did something similar. But yeah, so, here Bela Lugosi, who's so associated with that character of Dracula, only played him like twice on film, but he was buried in that costume because he was so closely associated with that character.
Wow.
Which is awesome. So you got Dracula, you got Boris Karloff as Frankenstein.
One thing I think is interesting in that is this, that you have a lot in let's say the turn of the century before movies came out, you had a lot of these things that were part of the American psyche. Like people knew about it, and it would have been phenomenal, I think, to see something go from an oral legend or something that you heard from your grandmother or whatever, to seeing it on film, and then later on to have that person talk. Because I think they did a Dracula earlier than that, if I'm not mistaken, but it was it wasn't shorter.
Yeah. They did like Nosferatu.
Nosferatu,
like
which is horrifying.
Yeah, yeah.
The guy, and even the 1970s one is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But it would have been so amazing to go back there. Some people say, I would love to have somebody go into my brain and delete all of the things that I've seen, all of the horror movies, just so I could re-experience them over again. Because it's just, you go back and you think, I got to get that buzz, and you just can't quite get like you did the first time.
Yeah.
It must have been kind of like for those people back in the 1920s and the 1930s, it must have just been mind-altering. That must have been horrific.
Think about, in the early days of filmmaking, I've read a lot of books on the subject, but in those early days, the movie studios were desperate for content. So what did? They bought up the rights to book after book and novel after novel. So imagine, winning the bidding rights on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and
That's huge.
turning that into a box office success, and Universal going more, more, more.
Yeah.
And so they became known as
King
the
Kong.
horror studio.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, was that a novel? Did that start out as a novel?
I don't know if it
or
was a
book?
novel, but
I have to look
Yeah.
that
No,
up.
I think you're right. I got excited there.
Yeah, but no, that
Threw that in there.
Hollywood turned toward novels to put content on screen, and because there's the content, there's the idea, there's almost the script right there. All the work was done. You just buy the rights to it and hand it to your director and go make this. It was really cool, and I wish Hollywood would do that more often. There's a period in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s where they were adapting novels like Gone with the Wind and stuff like that and turning into these box office smashes. But what was the last movie you saw in the theater that was based on a book, based on a novel, not counting comic books?
Well, and based on a novel that was not a ridiculous, because there's been
Yeah.
a bunch of things. Now, I did like the Hunger Games. I did like aspects of that. But then you had like Twilight, and you had
Right.
like the Maze Runner, and there has been some things that have been cool. But nothing like, some of the things that Marlon Brando was in, or some of the
Yeah.
that were really they were really trying to produce something of art and something of
Yeah.
great value. You know what we just saw the other day? We saw, now I'm getting off on a tangent, in 10 seconds or less, is 12 Angry Men, but not the 1950s version,
Mm-hmm.
the early 80s version with Jack Lemmon, and not Jack Lemmon, wait. Yeah, it was Jack.
Because
Is
Henry
Jack
Fonda
Lemmon?
was in the original one.
Right. So this one has like Tony Danza, Jack Lemmon,
Oh.
and a number of other people that I recognize. And it was George C. Scott, and George C. Scott's amazing. Anyway, that was adapted obviously from a fantastic screenplay, maybe from a book, but it's not there to scare you. It's there to make you think, and in the most positive, pro United States way. And it seemed like a really good use of time and energy, like To Kill a Mockingbird,
Right.
Yep.
that kind of a thing.
Based on a novel.
And so
Yeah,
those
yeah.
early ones, I think, were just on just things that were just so meaty and so fantastic.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know. It seems like we've really lost a lot of that that psychological. I don't know. It seems much less a great use of film. Most of this is just like, all right, let's just get to the part where the girl's got her, her shirt off and she gets slashed. Take 63.
Yeah. That's something they negotiate in the contract with the actors. All right, how many times can we show your breasts? And it's like,
Exactly.
well, how much are you going to pay me? That sort of
Yeah.
thing. But talk about, adapting books to films. This might be a good time to segue to Stephen King. When you talk horror movies, when you
Excellent.
talk Halloween movies, and you're looking for source material, for me in the 80s and into the 90s, Stephen King was the go-to guy. Hollywood just couldn't get enough of his books. Now, not all of them were translated all that well, some better than others. Andrew and I were just talking about Christine, about the killer car, which is campy, goofy fun, but I enjoyed
loved it.
Yeah,
I loved it. I thought that it's a revenge story, and why
Yeah.
not? And it's codependency, and it's all kinds of cool things. I absolutely loved it, but there were a number of movies, as you're probably going to point out, that were terrible.
Yeah. Now, one that immediately comes to mind, since we're talking about Stephen King, is in his books, your brain is allowed to go to places and visualize things that are spelled out in front of you in text, and your brain kind of creates these scenarios, and it makes it so terrifying. But when Hollywood tries to take some of these scenarios and play them out for you on the screen, they just don't translate the same. And the one movie that immediately comes to mind is Pet Sematary. So I remember reading the novel long before the movie came out, and it was terrifying. It was horrifying. Here this guy loses his child, and he learns about this Indian burial ground, and maybe if he buries his child, he can bring him back to life. And then be careful what you wish for, because
I haven't seen it yet. This is
Oh, you haven't seen it?
No, and I haven't read the book either. So I gotta get
that's
that.
the basic premise of the film is, how far do you go to try to bring back a loved one? And in the book, the concept is so terrifying. But then when you see the movie,
It's
you
just
have a
hokey.
child actor with limited skills who's, trying to look scary and going, and it takes you right out of the moment. Like
Yeah.
seeing it depicted on a movie screen isn't like your brain playing a movie inside your head. And so for me, Pet Sematary was really disappointing. And there have been more box office disappointments when it comes to Stephen King books than successes. But for me, the number one, and I'm not necessarily talking about Shawshank Redemption and stuff like that.
Those are
I'm talking about
phenomenal, yeah.
the horror
Wow.
genre. For me, I think the best movie adaptation of a Stephen King book was Misery. Misery took everything in the book and put it on the screen, and they had to tone it down a little bit. And one might argue, really, was that toning it down? But for me, I think when it comes to the horror genre, Misery was the best film adaptation of a Stephen King
Some
book.
would argue that would be The Shining, but that's not it. It went in quite a different direction than
Yeah.
the book, so it had good base source material. Other people might say it would be It. I really loved the book It,
Yeah,
and when I saw the one with that was on TV, I thought it was okay.
yeah.
It wasn't great, but the most recent one that they did, the two-parter, man, that I loved that.
Yeah.
I thought that worked out really well.
Now, going back to The Shining, correct me if I'm wrong, but Stephen King hated The Shining, and I think because of the departures that you mentioned. When it comes to It, this is kind of interesting because this applies to both the 80s version and then the modern version. I loved the first half when it was about the kids because you're seeing this
Yes.
terror through the eyes of a child. When they're all adults and stuff, I
It's
don't know
still
why.
cool
I
because I'd seen the book, but no,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
nearly as fun as just that first part's
Yeah.
really well done.
Yeah. And both the original version and the modern version, I loved the first half, not so much the second half. But
11/22/63, the book is top 5 books of all time, just for fun.
the Kennedy assassination one,
11/22/63. People go read it.
Yeah.
Go get it on Audible or whatever. I absolutely love that. But then they did one with James Franco, and they
Yeah.
introduced all these weird things, and it just
Yeah.
fell apart. Anyway, go on.
Someone gave me a copy or loaned me a copy of the book, and it was hard for me to crack it open because it's like 6 inches thick. And when I stare at a book that's 6 inches thick, I'm like, okay.
You get
I
about
gotta be
one
in the
chapter
right-
in. You get about one chapter in, and you fall down that rabbit hole. It is
Yeah.
wonder. Anyway, well, we got onto it. We got onto a Stephen King thing here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think this kind of falls under iconic horror because Stephen King movies in the 80s were iconic with Christine
They
and
really were.
Pennywise and all that stuff. So, do you guys have any other Stephen King movie adaptations that you would say were really well done?
I liked Creep Show. I think is that Stephen King or is it something?
That's a good question.
There's
I
one
remember.
that's got Stephen King
In it,
in it.
yeah, where he finds a meteor.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the one I'm thinking of. I don't know if that's directly related to it. There's obviously it. There's Maximum Overdrive, which was terrible.
Yeah, that was TV, wasn't it? That was a TV movie.
I thought it was on video. No?
That's a good question. I think it was a TV movie, but I'll have to
Where
double-check that,
this
but-
whole episode's been spitballing. It's been a lot of fun, but yeah, Maximum Overdrive
It's got a 14% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
terrible.
The concept isn't that crazy. Well, it's crazy, but it's not that outrageous. Where I think like Earth passes through the tail of a comet or whatever, and it makes electronic devices come to life or whatever, and so you can go, okay, I'll allow it, but the execution just didn't work.
It didn't work.
so.
No,
Yeah.
it reminded me of The Happening.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see The Happening by Shyamalan? Don't waste your time.
I heard it
or
wasn't
money.
good.
Yeah,
That's
we're
not-
wasting time and money talking about it right
What's
now. Moving.
what's the one in like the village, like the primitive village?
The
I
Village.
actually liked
The
that.
Village. I answered my own question.
I actually liked that.
I liked it.
My problem with the village is normally I really buy into twists and turns, and I'm usually genuinely surprised. But when I saw the village, I knew exactly what was happening from the get go.
Did you
So
really?
I didn't.
yeah, so
I didn't know it
for
either.
me there was no surprise or twist.
I
or
thought it
turn.
was a genuine like religious sect that had
Yeah.
gone out and
Yeah, so I saw that once, but
I haven't seen a whole lot of his adaptations into movies, but I've seen 3 just in the past like 4 months. So The Life of Chuck, which
That's Stephen King.
Yeah,
I haven't even heard of that one.
Is that good?
it's excellent. Yeah.
Is it in the horror genre?
No, it's not a horror
Oh,
movie. It's a more recent short film.
Okay.
The Monkey, which was a horror. Yeah,
Never heard of
I
that
watched
one.
that just a couple weeks.
Is
2
it
weeks
Monkey
ago.
Shines or not? The monkey?
Never heard of that one.
Yeah, it's this little toy monkey that.
Wait.
That's what Andrew usually brings to this podcast. You throw out titles, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I really
Nice.
liked it. And then Robert and I just a couple weeks ago saw The Long Walk.
I've heard of it,
Oh,
but
I heard
nothing
that was
about it.
really gory and really
So
shocking.
it was really good. I had no idea what it was about.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill plays this
Oh.
major or general in the army, and it's sort of like a post-apocalyptic America where the economy is bad. So all of these young guys, they get to volunteer for this thing that's just called the Long Walk, where they all start off walking and they have to keep walking, or if they trip or fall or whatever, they get 3 warnings. If they get their third warning, they get shot in the head. And it was super violent, like showing close up.
Yeah.
And this was like 2 days after Charlie Kirk got
Geez.
shot.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh,
Yeah, that doesn't sound like my kind of
But
thing.
I mean, it was so well made though.
Yeah.
But it could have done without the graphic violence.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, Life of Chuck was excellent. Also, Mark Hamill is in that. But the main character is played by Tom Hiddleston. Great movie. I highly
Tom
recommend.
Hiddleston's in it.
Tom Hiddleston.
I have to see it now.
Yeah.
I really.
It came out in June, so it's got to be streaming on something by now.
What about The Running Man?
Yes, I love it.
So that was a Stephen King adaptation. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously it's not a horror genre, but it is. It's kind of futuristic.
It's
It'd be almost more. I don't want to say sci-fi, but yeah, I think post-apocalyptic best describes it. But I enjoyed it when I saw it.
Richard
in the theater.
Dawson, awesome.
Oh yeah. You never saw that side of him.
So the remake,
Never did.
the remake is coming out.
That's
The
right.
Running Man, yeah.
Yeah.
Directed by Edgar Wright, who I love his movies, so hopefully it's good.
Yeah. Speaking of Edgar Wright, he did the trilogy, the
Shaun of the Dead,
yeah.
Hot Fuzz, World's End.
and they all kind of have
Those are so cool.
They all have horror elements to it.
Yep.
So that would be kind of fun if you're getting a group of friends together, to watch scary movies. That's kind of a fun one because they all have a horror element, but it's all done in a fun, light way.
Yeah, I love all 3 of those. And
Yeah.
one of them's really boring the first half, and then the second half, if you weren't paying attention during the first half, I won't tell you which one, you kind of go, oh, how did I miss that? This is so great. It's
Yeah.
actually really well done. It delivers a big punch.
Yeah.
I think it's World's End, if I'm not mistaken.
With-
The pub crawl.
where they're getting replaced by the
yeah,
aliens.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's I don't know if it's just a Edgar Wright gimmick or whatever, but the fun thing about his movies is the slow reveal.
Yep.
Like you have to kind of notice things in the background before they hit you over the head and tell you what's happening. And Shaun of the Dead is a perfect example where you're seeing things in the background and they're not even addressing it, and you're like, "What's that going on back there?"
Yep,
And that's
yep.
kind of fun. It doesn't talk down to you. It allows you to kind of figure things out, which is a lot of fun.
I've got one that we haven't discussed yet. I wanted to
Yes.
ask your questions about it. I'll tell you the scariest movie I ever saw, but I won't tell you the title of it, and I think you can guess. It was a movie that came out when I was very young, so probably like 4 or 5 or something like that. And I saw it at a midnight showing on Halloween when I was 15, and it mixed religious undertones with the devil. And
I think I know where you're going, and I'm glad you brought it up, but
Yep.
go ahead.
And they brought in a gentleman who is a Norwegian, or
The director?
no. The main one of the main actors is I think he's either Norwegian or he's Swedish. I think he's Swedish.
Mm-hmm.
And he just gave this amazing performance. And there's a young woman in it who gives an amazing performance that, by today's standards, there's no way in heck they would allow a child actor to do.
Yeah.
And
I think we know what you're
that
talking about. Go ahead.
Scared the mother living jeepers out of me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't by Disney. And Andrew's got it. Let's say it together. 1, 2, 3.
The
Exorcist.
Now, I'm so glad you brought that up because, again, when I was in L.A. a couple of weeks ago, my friends and I were touring Warner Brothers, and they were getting ready for the Halloween season. And as you exited the tour of the studio, they had this big lobby area set up, and they had original movie props on display. And they had several movie props from The Exorcist on display. The door to Reagan's bedroom was on display. The statue that you briefly see in the film, I forget what the name of the god is or whatever, but the statue, which has this enormous phallus that they sort of had to hide from the crowd. You had to choose to see it. But the thing that disturbed me the most, and this kind of ties in with our original topic of times that movies have gone too far, one of the props that was on display was the crucifix. Okay. And I'm like, why? Why did you put that on display? That's one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen in a film.
I've ever seen either.
Yeah.
But
you're
it doesn't
right.
matter how religious or not, it's still.
Yeah.
And
you got a young actress depicting this scene, and how do you prep a young actress for something like that? And I agree with you. I think it's probably hands down the scariest movie I've ever seen. I've only seen it twice. I saw the original version, and then I saw the director's cut or whatever that had the spider crawl in it. You remember the spider crawl scene?
I did not see that. I remember that.
Yeah, they added a scene, or they originally deleted a scene from The Exorcist that they restored for later releases, where Reagan, the character, bends over backwards and crawls down the stairs backwards like a spider.
Yeah.
And it's so creepy and so bizarre. But yeah, I agree with you that I think it gets my vote for the scariest movie of all time because of the religious connotations and all that. And if you were to argue that, Reagan with all her crusty makeup as possibly that fourth entry in horror movie icons, I might allow that because
that's right.
It's such an iconic role and iconic character, and it's so disturbing. Like, I remember the first time I watched it, I went to bed with the light on, like the closet light on, because it was so terrifying.
Totally, me too. I had nightmares all night long.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because that's to me is one of, if not the scariest movies of all time.
It was one of those movies that was on during college, and we were always watching old classic movies. I didn't really sit and pay attention to it.
Yeah, maybe sit down with the lights out, everybody's gone, and just let that bad boy unroll because it's.
I might.
Be careful.
I saw it.
We don't want him coming in for the next podcast going, "Hi, everybody." Like, oh no.
Well, since Joe and I have talked about the very, very scariest movie that we've seen happens to be Exorcist, and I think you and I kind of came up during the same time period where that was really adding in the religious side of it. Yeah. It messed with my operating system.
Sure,
pretty heavy
I agree.
as a my good Mormon upbringing. So
yeah.
I think for me, at least when I was a kid, the scariest thing I saw, and I don't know why my parents bought the VHS, but the 1950s Blob.
Really?
With Steve McQueen?
Well, I was like 5 though.
That's interesting. Wow.
Well, that makes sense.
The very beginning where that guy's poking it and it comes down the stick, and then he's like, doctor, he has to take him to the little doctor's office, but then. It must have been the network premiere of the remake, which came out, 89? The remake Blob. Have you seen it?
I think I have, but who's in it?
It is really good. I don't think anybody famous.
It's like, I think Donovan Tate or something was his name.
I don't know. But that was on TV, and I caught a glimpse of it when I was probably 6 or 7. And because I had the original still fresh in my brain. That scared the crap out of me. But in terms of other movies that I can sit and pick one where it's like, this is the scariest thing I've ever seen, I can't, I don't know. I don't really have anything that really pops out. You
know what's funny? You mentioned the Blob. Something I enjoy doing this time of the year is create. I used to make CDs. Now I just do playlists. But I love listening to Halloween-related music, Monster Mash, Thriller,
Yes.
and all that stuff. But there's a theme song in The Blob that
yep.
I enjoy listening to, where it creeps and leaps and glides and slides across the floor. Right
Classic
through
50s.
the door. Yeah, and it's hysterical.
I think for recent films that really did scare the crap out of me was Suspiria. So there was the
Haven't seen that,
1970s version.
We should just have like a running list of all the things that somebody should be typing these as we talk. Going Suspiria.
Yeah. So the first one in the 70s was directed by Dario Argento, who was a famous Italian director. And I just recently saw that last year for the first time. But the remake came out in 2017 with Dakota Johnson, Tilda Swinton, a couple other girls in it that are, I think maybe Florence Pugh and Mia Goth. The ending of that movie freaked me out.
Wait. What's this movie now? I'm writing this down.
Suspiria.
How do you spell it? S-U-S-P?
Suspiria.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, yeah, there's the original in the 70s, and then 2017 was the remake. Terrifying.
You know what? You mentioned
I loved it, though. I loved it.
You mentioned the Paranormal Activity movies earlier. I thought the first one was terrifying. The second
As
one
did I.
I felt was overproduced.
Yeah.
The third one I thought got back to its roots, and it had
I
some
haven't seen the third
genuinely terrifying moments.
Really?
It is, yeah. If you haven't seen 3, check out 3. It is very, very scary.
I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, Paranormal
Yeah.
3, because I did see 1, and I heard 2 was lousy. I'm like, oh, forget
Yeah.
it. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, they went to Hollywood with 2, and that was the whole appeal of the first one. It was so low budget, and they used gimmicks and stuff, with the cameras and trying to, capture the experiences. And they kind of got back to their roots with 3, and there's some really great moments in that movie. So if you're looking for genuine scares, Paranormal 1 and Paranormal Activity 3 were
Okay.
genuinely scary.
And what did you think of Blair Witch?
I hated Blair Witch, but it's hard to go in. I had heard so much hype about Blair Witch before I saw it that my expectations were really high. And I remember I was in California for a trip, and a group of us decided to go see it in the theater. And I'll never forget that moment as the credits were rolling. The crowd got angry. Like, this is what everyone is talking about. I thought that if it was produced by some of our public access users here at ONTV, I would say it was a worthy effort.
Yeah.
But the fact that this was playing in movie theaters and made millions of dollars, it's like one of the most profitable movies in history.
Now, that's an ROA I can get behind.
I was
ROI.
not impressed. I was not impressed with the film.
So I told you that I saw it at Sundance, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
And so I
remember you
didn't
said
know.
that.
So you saw it at the get-go. Okay.
I did, but I didn't know that it wasn't. They'd said no. Some guy standing in line with us said it's not real. Another guy said no, it is. And so
Yeah.
like, okay,
A
whatever.
lot of
we
people
went in,
bought into it, yeah.
and I thought it was fantastic. Anyway.
Yeah.
I
Well,
have
we're-
not seen it.
We're just about out of time. Yeah, so we were kind of all over the place today. We started talking about movie icons, but then we just started talking about our
It was
our
crazy.
scary
It was
movies, but-
crazy.
So we'll have to come up with a fun topic in 2 weeks. We're going to do 3 podcasts in October. That's just the way the calendar falls.
Yeah.
So I want to keep the Halloween theme going for our next couple of episodes. That's, like I said, I really love this topic during this time of the
Yes,
year.
me too.
So thanks for joining us, guys, and
Thank
thanks
you,
for listening.
Joe. That was so much fun. I really
And,
appreciate it. It was just great to spitball.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, yeah.
very
Yeah,
little
sometimes
form.
it's fun to go off
we
script.
went
Yeah.
went down some rabbit holes, but boy, we had a
Yeah.
good time. Thank you.
All right, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Come to the movies, watch Charlie Chaplin, and put some sunshine into your day. Forget the hard times, come to the movies, and try to laugh your troubles away.